Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to another episode of Three Bridges. So there's another intro to this one, which you'll see in a bit. I've just sort of tagged this one on the front. So last night I was watching Make Tracks, where they're getting ready for Gets, obviously, and Pete was talking about people don't really model in real scale because the size of his flats are just enormous. Yeah, they definitely are. I'd love to go and see it, and the station as well. Watford Station does look like an amazing building, and he basically just said, you can't model in that sort of scale. Anyway, by the time I built what I'd built, I was thinking, God, this is just ridiculous. This is just a silly thing that I won't ever show. And then I was also thinking, I wonder how high my viaduct is compared to the local viaduct, which is obviously the Berwick-on-Tweed viaduct. So the Berwick-on-Tweed viaduct, I think, is, I'll have to check my facts, 37 metres high, and it's 2,000 feet long or something. So what's 37 metres? About 120 feet high. Anyway, so what I've made is it would equate to in OO scale 142 feet high, so about 54 metres high. So yeah, I'm modelling in scale. Hello again, welcome back to Three Bridges. I'm Mark. So should be the end of the September update if I get this out next week before I go on holiday. The sort of work is progressing on the Amersham Moor Park station, but I sort of took a bit of a detour this week. So I've been watching Peter and his, I think it was another N-scale layout he was doing for a client, and because he often makes the comment that the designs that he creates for customers, it can take them several years, decades to build the layout, so he never actually gets to see them as they're progressing in short term. And also he's also aware that with the more complex ones, it'll be a long time before they actually get onto the scenics and the running of the trains. And so I hadn't quite appreciated that sometimes he builds in a sort of return loop on the lower deck fiddle yards. And that got me thinking about my own layout. So my current part of the layout, which is the Aylesbury to Marylebone, which I'm hoping to finish by the end of next year, is basically an end-to-end. So I don't get continuous running trains. It's very much a shuttle up and down. And whilst I'm sort of up in the loft, I'm sort of missing the fact that you can't just have trains running in the background. So I was trying to think about, is there a quick way to just get a couple of return loops in for now, so that I can have stuff running whilst I'm up there doing other stuff. So two options. The first option I was thinking was, well, do I just build the whole of the top deck? But then I realised that's a bit of a divert of what I'm planning, and it would take quite a lot of time because I would have to build some sort of framework over the other side of the loft to do that. Was probably too much of a distraction. And so the simplest way to do it seemed to be to just take the current Chiltern line, where I'm going to have Aylesbury, the board at one end, and then where it's sort of at the other end of the loft, where I'm still trying to work out what's going to go there. I could put in a couple of return loops so that I basically make my Chiltern line as a continuous running loop. Even though I've wired it up for one line up DC and one line down DC, it wouldn't be too difficult to change the electrics. So that's what I'm planning to do. So you'll see a few images and shots, and then basically I'll end up with, hopefully, a temporary return loop that I'll use for the next 6 months before I probably have to change it. The other advantage is also I'm making quite a large temporary board for Aylesbury out of a couple of old doors. You'll see that. It'll allow me to sort of lay out the Aylesbury station plan, just to see if I can make it fit in the space I've got, and does it actually work, before I then have to commit to building the framework and laying track. So let's see how we get on. So the plan's fairly simple. So where I end over, I'll split it into here, the start of the return loop. So this is my down line. It will come round and then sort of fourth radius curve, and then it will just come back to my upline. So that's this end sorted, and then with the point here I can still play around with sort of the entrance to the Aylesbury board, and I presume if I put another point in over here I could do the upline as well and just see what I can get. So if I come back, so I'm envisaging that Aylesbury will have to go right up to the roof struts, maybe a little bit beyond, which I can do. So I'm allowing for the fact that Aylesbury may go into this part of the loft and that my London boards will end before here. So I can try a few things out with the design, see what's sort of doable with the 3 car DMU length that I'm sort of going for. So 80 centimetres is sort of my maximum train length. Just so there's no confusion, see the return loop I've got is temporary, so this is just for the next 6 months whilst I'm sorting out other stuff, planning the end of this part of the loft and the framework and that. It's going to take a while to build stuff like that. So just in case anyone was wondering what I was using for the large boards that are basically temporary Aylesbury and the return loop there. So these are old doors you get in the UK. They're really cheap household doors. It's like 20 quid each or something, and they're basically just 2 thin skins of about 3mm plywood, and then it has a cardboard core and there's a bit of a wood outer. So the challenge at the other end of the loft from a Chiltern line is to get a return loop in here. So I've still run away about a metre from the end here to the wall. I could start, come back to here, so it'd be 1.2, and start curving the tracks around, and then basically they need to have a return loop here. I'll make that one a very simple one. It will literally just be for the return loop, because when I come to do this end of the roof, that bit of return will go immediately. So I'll work out what I'm going to do there. Wondering why I've got a heart in my loft. It's one of my dad's models. But I had open heart surgery a couple of years ago and I can't bring myself to throw it away. So I need to do another return loop. The shape I actually probably need to make is something like this, so it will go round, come back on itself, start to go in and then come back. And I'll try and, there's a bit of an S there, I'll try and smooth it out a little bit with a straight section in the middle. Okay, so I then got to how do I support all of this, and immediately sort of think, oh, I'll just go and make some more open framework like this. So these frameworks here, so they're about 1.8 and 40 wide. So I could reuse those on the top level, another one there, and then a couple of shorter ones. And then late last night I was watching Peter and Mr. Benchwork again, just trying to get a bit of inspiration really, because it just felt like this was a bit overkill for a return loop that's going to sit there for 6 months. And I was watching one of the videos from Mr. Benchwork where he's doing a really large garage layout in LA. I think it was one of the last videos he posted this year. He's clearly working on a lot of other stuff and not posting a lot. And he has a lot of single track high up on very high supports, I suppose, quite spaced out, and just got me thinking that actually if I make the track work, the sub bed, and lay it all out, and as long as I've got this reinforced underneath with some joiners, I basically just need some simple vertical spacers, things like this. So I started off originally thinking, well, I'll have a sort of trestle on two sides and a middle in the middle, and you just think, hang on, this is overkill. It's not, I'm not standing on this. It's literally a small tray, one piece of track, and a bit of plywood. So I'm going to make some risers that effectively come up underneath, and they will just screw to the floor because it's just temporary. And so I think that's the quickest way to do it. The other thing I like about this is next year I have to do a return loop for my underground line, which again has to fit underneath my Chiltern line baseboard, and I need to do another return loop under London for my East Coast line again, which has got to fit in afterwards underneath the main baseboard. And so I don't want to be making a framework that then sits on a framework that then sits on a framework that then sits on a framework, so 4 decks. So for my return loops I want to find the simplest solution. So I'm going to try this out, see if it works for me, because I just feel it would be an easier solution to sort of be able to fit in afterwards or before. So the only thing I need to decide is how many of these support brackets would I normally put in, and they're normally 40 or 50 centimeters, a couple of feet apart. So I'll sort of work it out, have a go, and let you see how I get on. Right, I'll try and show you what I'm doing for the return loop that's at the other end of the loft. So this was the one that I'll reuse later next year, and it'll probably be for my underground line because it's a 3rd radius. The other return loop, which needs to be a 4th radius, because I've got obviously the more modern stock, I'll build another time. So I basically cut out from the sheet a number of these. So I just went with a sort of scrap bit of wood, so it's not the amount of the radius that you can actually get, it's not critical. And then effectively what I'm doing is joining up with just some support plates underneath, so that effectively that would then join on like that if you bolted it through, if you wanted to. And I suppose the main comment to make, so my normal sub bed is 11mm ply, okay, but because this is going to have not a lot of support underneath, so normally with the normal sub bed I've obviously got the open framework which is made out of the 18mm ply. I'm making this sub bed all out of the 18mm ply, so it's and the support, so and the connecting plates, so it's a lot more rigid, and so therefore effectively the sub bed is the rigid part, and then it will just sit on some simple risers like that. So that is the plan, and then I've obviously got some cheap what do you call this stuff? It's alright, my brain is not working this morning. MDF, so I've just got some cheap MDF, so I'll also seal that with some MDF primer, so that obviously I just don't want my trains falling off into nowhere. So that's the first curve. So that'll get me from the end of the current Chiltern line round to the end wall. I then need to have a section that goes along the back. So I've just cut out the next one, so that will join on there. So I just need to put the sides on. I've made the 2 supporting plates, and then at the far end of it you have a sort of 180 return. So I'm starting the process of just finishing that off. So that just slightly over 180, so it all, if you remember from the original sketch, I've sort of come back on myself and go through a bit of an S. Okay, so the last bit I've got to build then is the sort of coming through the S bend where you come back to the Chiltern down line, going towards Aylesbury. I'm going to build the rest of the framework up first, put it up in the loft, and then I can work out where this last board actually comes into the existing sort of board, because it's not a simple join. I've basically got to start the curve a bit further down than I've currently got the track laid out. So effectively, this is my current down line with my track ending here. This one's actually going to sort of splice in somewhere like here. So I'll present it up, work out where the cut will be, and then I can relay the track onto the new temporary return loop. So that'll be the plan for that one. Okay, so complete the straight section. I basically just tacked on the MDF retaining walls, as I have a lot of tacks. So my dad did upholstery, and I inherited a lot of tacks. Well, the main structure's gone in okay. This is the bit where I have a predicament, so to get from here round back to the downline is a bit more second radius than third. So I'm gonna leave this board wider, just because I don't know where the track will eventually lie, and then I just need to mark up where this one cuts in. Hi, well that was the end. So it worked out about, the length of it worked out at about, so it's 5 meters of track, which works out at I think 380 meters long in scale, which is about 1100 feet. So about half the length of the Berwick one, which just shows you the scale of the Berwick viaduct. Obviously, if you know Berwick, there's 3 bridges at Berwick. There's the massive viaduct bridge, there's the old stone bridge that was built 400 years ago, had its anniversary this summer, and there's the modern road bridge, probably built in the 50s I think. And so obviously 3 bridges. It's going to be modelled at some point. It's probably like the last bit I will do in 7 years time if I ever get there, but obviously not for full scale. And I would be quite intrigued to have a go at actually making a small section of the Berwick viaduct bridge to actual OO scale, even if it's just like a static section I stick on the wall or something. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I certainly had a lot of fun making it, and managed to get it done before we go on holiday. So I'll load this one up, and it's just as always, thanks for watching. For those of you who do subscribe and like, I do appreciate it. I don't get a lot of comments, but I don't mind that because I don't get any rivet counters either. So enjoy your modelling, enjoy Getz if you get there. I'm very jealous. I won't be able to get there this year, but yeah, maybe catch you next time. Cheers.